check it out. There's actually fans. There's not many of them, but still. Did you read this?
Yep.
Although for fans, they sure do complain a lot. There's Sam girls and Dean girls, and what's a slash fan?
As in Sam/Dean. Together.
Like, together?
Yeah.
They do know we're brothers, right?
Doesn't seem to matter.
Welcome to Idling in the Impala, a podcast by and for lovers of supernatural and the fanfiction it inspires. I'm Karlee.
I'm Sandra, and Karlee and I have been curious about fanfic challenges, bangs, and bingos for a while now. I recently saw a posting about a summer sultry swing created by SPN Masquerade. I reached out to the moderators, and they graciously agreed to join us for a discussion on kink prompts and how one gets them fulfilled. So I wanted to introduce Amy, who's known as Dug In Deep, and Ash, who's Ashtray Thief in the community. I wanted to thank you both for coming out and talking to us about this really in-depth thing that you guys are doing with SPN Masquerade. So thank you. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
You're
guys.
welcome. Thank you for having us.
I'm realizing, because I was looking, this is the last day of your prompt challenge, isn't it? August 20th?
It is. Yeah, we were joking that this is like too bad we didn't plan this to come on much earlier. But yeah, today is the very last day.
Okay, so I have a question I added later on just because I was like, oh, it's today. It's like, so it's a busy day. So thank you even more for taking some time today. So I wanted to start with, and I know you both have reviewed questions, but exactly when and how you got into Supernatural.
So excuse me, I was just pausing to see if Ash wanted to go first. So I started, I had friends who watched it that I knew from other fandoms, like when it first started, and I didn't really pay too much attention to it except seeing their posts about it back when LiveJournal was much more lively and active. And then at some point, I think I got into Jeffrey Dean Morgan, so I decided I'm going to watch that first season of Supernatural. And then by the second episode, I was in love with Dean Winchester. And
oh, for fuck's sake!
I lost the rest of my life. That was during when season 4 was airing, but I was watching them off DVDs back when Netflix sent you the DVDs, and so I'd have to wait until I got the next ones. So that's how I got into the show itself, and then so that was probably I don't know, fallish. And then by the next summer, I was starting to write fic. So,
okay. And what, I'm sorry, I might have missed, what, do you know, what year was it? Was it right away when the show started, or was it later?
No, it was while season 4 was airing. I went back to start season 1. And then I caught up in time to watch the season 4 finale in live time.
Gotcha. Okay.
So
good season.
Yeah.
Good season to have to watch live, I would think.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. And Ash.
What about you, Ash? Come on, come through for me.
I just imagined watching the season 4 finale live with that cliffhanger and having to suffer through a summer. So, which just sounds terrible. I joined it later, and oh god, it's a little embarrassing because it's really shallow. But back in the day, there used to be internet sites that would recommend TV shows and telling you where to watch them. Because I was living in Europe at the time, and it was before Netflix came to Europe. So, it was really hard to watch shows anywhere else except television. So, there were these places online where you could go that, we're not going to talk about in detail. But they had different categories for recommending shows. And one of their categories was ridiculously good-looking people. And, and so the show... Yeah. And the shows they recommended were Supernatural, Vampire Diaries, and I don't remember the rest. And I was sure, I have nothing else to do. It's summer, whatever. And I watched an episode of Vampire Diaries and was no. And then I watched an episode of Supernatural and I was well, they're really hot, but this is scary. And I know that in the grand scheme of things, Supernatural is not that scary, but I am an absolute horror movie wimp. And I just couldn't do it. I was they're not pretty enough.
I was that way too. And then
the scary. So this was, and so I stopped. And then I think half a year later, maybe I went home with one of my roommates for Easter. And I remember we were watching Leverage on TNT. And it ended, and then it started playing Supernatural, and I was like, oh, pretty but scary. But it was Playthings. Season 2 Playthings.
Oh, good one, good one.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I was just like, and everybody around me was like having a conversation because they weren't really into Supernatural. It was just running in the background. And I was just glued to the screen. And obviously I didn't know the entire lead up to the conflict in the episode. I just remember they're like hot brothers looking for their dad. And I was like, okay, yeah, it doesn't matter how scary this is. I need to go back and I need to start from the beginning. And so I found that webpage and I found the ridiculously hot people category, and it was still there. That's how I started watching Supernatural, for entirely shallow reasons.
That's fine. That's
great.
We're not judging.
Yeah, but I also realized it's a pretty good show, right? And like season 1 is great, and then I did season 2, and then I could play things on gas. And I think I was like 2010.
Okay.
So during season 5, I think. And I think I had caught up by the time, like, for season 6, I think, or 7. It took me a while. And then I was lurking for a really long time because I wasn't really active in any fandom. And I mean, I knew about fanfic and I had read a little bit in other fandoms, but I wasn't writing. Not until, very cliche, I had like Monster at the end of the book and they were talking about incest. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's that's probably a thing I should check out. And then I lurked for a while on LiveJournal and before I started writing. And I mean, I think it's a nice circle with a Masquerade because I started writing anonymously on the Kink meme, which is a similar, prompt fest on LiveJournal, and that's where I got my start. And I think it was like a hard introduction to fandom and fanfic writing because the Kink meme is, a lot, but it taught me a lot about fandom and myself. So here we are.
Yeah. I think one of the things it teaches you is how much you can actually like withstand if something's really ridiculously good looking enough. And I just keep thinking of that one convention where they showed the promo, and I don't know if it was a UK promo or just like a promo from like years ago where it was like scary just got sexy. And it's like, that's kind of like, okay, like you're making it palatable for me because of all the ridiculously good looking people that are all over the place. So
I did notice, no, wait.
Okay.
I noticed you very carefully avoided outing a favorite character there, Ash, and I'm not going to let that slide.
So I mean, I love both of the brothers a lot, dearly, and I think their relationship is like the star of the show. But if I like had to pick, I'm leaning like Dean-ish as well.
Fuck's sake.
But I love Sam a lot too.
No, you've done it now. All right, don't mind me. Still over here holding up 200 plus pounds of hunk. All by myself.
Since our last guest, I've been assigned to create a table that shows which guests are either, Sam or Dean lovers. So I've got to work on that.
I think there's like me and like maybe 2 other guests that are on Team Sam.
No, but I think just Ash, just like you were saying, like our last guest did also say, like, initially they said, they love them both equally, but Karlee was like, no, I need to know.
Pick one. Yeah.
Which one?
I will say, I think Sam and Dean is very much like for different, like obviously who as a character you love, but like on the shallow level, different things, different brothers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
absolutely. But if your first introduction, I'm going to out you here, Sandra. If your first introduction to Sam and Dean was Playthings, where he fucking vaults over the balcony like a goddamn champion.
No, I absolutely started out like that episode when he comes out of the water and he's like wet. I was like, yeah, okay, I'm watching that. So and I will still, every time in whatever iteration this gif of Sam wet in Playthings out of the pool comes across my dash, I immediately reblog it because that's like the hottest he has ever looked, I think.
Did you watch season 6? Did you skip that one?
No, he's not hot in season 6. It's just the wet hair. Really
the water and the no.
Yeah, Karlee's about him being wet too. Yeah, there's a torture scene where he's wet. They're very much season
12, accent in a pantsuit where they fucking hell. Yeah. No, I don't know. It's much the same as someone getting all the way to season 6, seeing that fucking bod, and then going, nah, the short one's mine.
Yeah,
That's what I need. I don't need good hair and abs. I need short and no hair. So apparently, I'm gonna tell Jared, if I ever get to meet him, I'm gonna tell him, like, you need to know how many people you brought into Supernatural and then they ditched you.
They abandoned you for Dean.
I have been loyal for 15 seasons, motherfucker. You need to know. I'm gonna out you all to Jared when I finally get to a UK con.
Okay.
You wait. I'm gonna.
All right.
Especially you, Sandra.
I know.
Especially you.
I know. I believe you. I have no doubt that's going to happen. So I mean, I think we've talked a little bit like about overall thoughts on the show. We know where our loves maybe lie a little bit more between Sam or Dean, but are there any like particular? I heard Ash a little bit like Wincest. Are there pairings, ships, that you guys like, adore? Talks amongst yourselves, whoever wants to go first when it comes to that part.
Well, I think Amy and I had different ways coming to fandom. So, Amy, why don't you start with this one? Because I already outed my initial thoughts.
So, I mean, I'll say that writing in fandom, a high majority of my stuff is actually RPF, and I started with RPF for a long time. And, I would say, like, for a while, I was not into Wincest, that I'd be like, well, like, yeah, I get it, and I see why people like it, and that's fine. Your kink is not my kink, sort of a thing. And then basically what's funny is the Masquerade is what broke my Wincest cherry, and it was the first time I wrote Wincest. And I'm dabble in it a lot more now, maybe not as much as Ash or others do, but yeah, I kind of stick primarily to that. But I will say, if we're gonna just to at least defend or to make up for myself a little with Karlee, the Samness is I, and Ash can attest to this, that I will fight to my dying day. And I even said yesterday that I would put it on my headstone that Sam and Dr. Kara is probably the hottest stuff on the entire show. So
from season 4, right?
Yeah, from Sex and Violence. So yeah, I love that. And then I think in Masquerade in general, there's times I've kind of dabbled with, different pairings like Sam Rowena, or I think I wrote one Dean Cass thing once, and then, just kind of played around a little bit here and there, but it's primarily RPF. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the fun of the Masquerade is that you try out different ships. And it's kind of funny because I came to the fandom through Wincest shipping. But when I fell into the kink meme, I discovered RPF, and I started writing RPF. And for a really long time, I only wrote RPF because I think it's just what I do better, even though I enjoy reading Wincest a lot. It's just not, there are just a lot of people who can do that a lot better than me. And I really enjoy writing AUs. And for me, the magic in Wincest is I don't need an AU for that because the show, provides the good food. But I have written some Wincest, and and hilariously, I actually write a lot of JDM, either with Jensen and Jared.
Oh, okay.
And Amy doesn't. She came to this for him, and I'm always like, Amy, don't you want to write some JDM for me? And she's like, no. But yeah, and I mean, I didn't. I mean, obviously, I knew JDM from like Grey's Anatomy, and then he showed up in Supernatural. Like, yes, thank you. And so I think that's probably like my second most favorite pairing to write is like RPF with JDM. But I've experimented, and I've written some femme slash, and I've written like a Sam Rowena thing, but I tend to stick with like the J3 constellation.
Okay. Every time I talk to like a fanfic writer or reader, and they talk about challenges, and I'm gonna it's not immediately in the questions that I gave you, so I do apologize, but because it was brought up. Kink meme. What exactly? Again, I feel like such a newbie, even though I've been reading fan fiction for like. What is a kink meme? What does that mean? Like, I'm sorry, apologies, but no. What is a kink meme?
I think for a long time, like, meme was known as like kind of an activity, and back in LiveJournal days, it would be like, oh, we're gonna have a comment meme, and it would be in the comments, people would post a bunch of prompts and then people would fill the prompts, and they just, and it would be, sometimes it would be a special topic. Or I remember one year it was like when the Olympics were happening, somebody hosted an Olympics meme, and then you'd have other ones that are maybe more like fem/, to feature all the women, or, it's someone's birthday. And so we're going to do, Jared's birthday meme. And so it'd start with that. And then you get into the kink meme now, and it's, more about where you go to find or to write. Like, I think, the thought is it's more extreme kinks in general, but, there's a wide range of kinks, but usually, it's a little bit more anonymous. And a lot of times people comment and post under an anon, or they don't use their screen name. So they can kind of, like we said, you can kind of dip your toe into different pools without being called out for it. No judgment.
Interesting. I guess a lot of it has to do with the fact that if you're known in the fandom, I guess, for writing a particular type of genre, pairing, ship, and you may not be, I don't know, as comfortable with it, then this just gives you kind of like, here, just do it, see what happens, get a reaction, see if it goes over well, kind of scenario in terms of just the whole anonymity thing.
Yeah.
I think it's, go ahead, Ash.
Yeah, and I think it's also a place to like try out new things and find also inspiration. And I know there are people who don't enjoy writing for prompts, but a lot of people do. And to go back to your original question about the kink meme, so I think generally in the supernatural fandom, if you talk about the kink meme, then you mean the supernatural kink meme on LiveJournal, which still exists as a community, but I think they also moved to Dreamwidth because LiveJournal stopped allowing anonymous comments, which makes both the Masquerade and the kink meme impossible to run on LiveJournal. But the kink meme is super old, and all the old posts are still around in LiveJournal. And the way the kink meme, at least back in the day, used to work is that every month they would have a new post for prompts. And it was separated in like regular and underage, and then in supernatural and in RPF. And people would leave tons of prompts, and people would start filling them, and there was no closing to them. So sometimes people went back like to posts from like half a year ago and started filling them. And there's a lot of really, really kinky stuff on there. And they also have a pin board that sorts all the old fills. And so you can sort by kink or by pairing. And that's the place where I started writing. And there's just everything you can imagine is there. And it has garnered recent fame because the kink meme, the supernatural kink meme, is the place where ABO was invented. Yes. So it has its place in fandom history.
Yeah, I think I'd finally like learned about like ABO and its tie to supernatural. I think it maybe last year, doing a little bit of research and then watching some YouTube videos. And also just recently, we did a episode about like just fanfic platforms in general, and talking about, their life and death, and like why they become, really popular and then sort of die out and stuff. And I think that's probably going to tie into maybe my next question, because I have a feeling you just mentioned LiveJournal a little bit, but from what I read and heard, it sounded like, as you were saying, they took away the ability to post anonymously, and that kind of like, plus didn't they also put restrictions in place where they just started like taking things down without giving anybody like any sort of warning on LiveJournal? I don't know if I'm getting my facts correct or not. And I don't know if you know the answers to that. So I just know from doing a little bit of research lately that LiveJournal kind of had its place. And then one of the reasons it kind of died down was because it wasn't, I think, as accepting of certain, I guess, rated fic or stuff like that.
Yeah, I think the original first strike through on LiveJournal happened in 2006 and 2007, maybe a little bit earlier. And there were like several moments on LiveJournal where communities were deleted and they were looking for like extreme sexual content, but they would also delete like survivors groups and everything. And one of the reasons and one of the reasons why they founded AO3 was because fic was no longer safe on LiveJournal.
Yeah.
And then the TOS changed when they were bought by this Russian company a couple years ago. And that
Yeah.
was and that was when a lot of people either left LiveJournal or took down their fics or deleted their journals.
Mm-hmm.
And then last year, when we were trying to run the Masquerade in the summer, we realized you can't comment anonymously anymore.
Mm.
And that defeats the whole purpose. So we had to move to Dreamwith, which is fine, actually, because Dreamwith works the exact same way than
Okay.
LiveJournal,
Okay.
like from the interface.
Yeah. So I guess just to express more of just my not knowing, and Karlee, what exactly is SPN Masquerade? Like, how long has it been around? And you just answered one of my questions too, which like platforms that you use primarily for SPN Masquerade. But if you could talk about that, like its inception and all those great things.
Yeah, so a little bit of even going further back is for a bit on LiveJournal, there was a meme called Blindfold, and it was essentially the first Masquerade. It was run by some other folks in fandom, and then they closed it down, but didn't want to pass it on, which sometimes happens with challenges or memes. If someone wants to like close it, they'll pass it on. So about a year or two later, Masquerade was opened in 2014. And actually, it was opened by a couple folks that we were friends with. So we were not part of the initial gang, so to speak, of opening it, but they opened it basically to kind of like create like a new blindfold, to have a space for that kind of fun. It's, the whole thing that's different for us from other memes or the kink meme or other ones is that we focus on it just being like a quick fire, like once every so often, where you just get like a couple weeks to work on things and then it shuts down. And so it's supposed to kind of have that like heightened exhilaration of like, okay, like it's just these 2 weeks that people are going to be looking at prompts and writing, and we're trying to get a bunch of stuff in all at once. As opposed to like the kink meme, as Ash mentioned, it kind of rolls over month over month over month. So yeah, so it started that way in LiveJournal, and then I don't know, I mean, it's been quite a few years now that then it kind of died down from the folks who were running Masquerade, and I knew them pretty well, and so I reached out and was like, hey, like let's try to keep this alive. I'm happy to step in and help you guys run it. And then so I got involved, and then eventually they kind of cycled out more, and we brought on Ash came on and helped, and then there's another one. Kelly is the third mod who couldn't make it today, but so there's three of us who run it together now, and so yeah.
Okay. What? So it sounds like LiveJournal just like no longer was the place to be, and that you started using Dreamwith. I've never used LiveJournal. And I've just heard about Dreamwith just looking into your site a little bit more. So is Dreamwith very similar to LiveJournal? Okay.
Yeah, I think it's basically like somebody kind of took the bones, or understood the bones of what LiveJournal was, and then kind of recreated it like in an open platform. So it's essentially like the exact same thing. And it was born out of times where we were talking earlier about how LiveJournal had issues with, its TSS and the new owners and, all this kind of stuff. And there were different DOS attacks that were happening. And so Dreamwith kind of was born out of being the new LiveJournal, since LiveJournal was having a lot of issues. I don't think it quite ever got off the ground as well as LiveJournal used to be. And then, of course, around that time, Twitter blew up. So I think a lot of fandom just moved over to Twitter in general, or Tumblr got big, obviously. And so it's essentially the same thing, where it's like you make a post, and within the post, then we run the meme through the comments on that post. So basically, we're like, okay, this is the one post where you do your comments, you do your prompts, you do your fills, whether it's fic or art, to kind of respond to what the prompt is. And so this is where it all happens within the comments.
Okay. It sounds bulletin boardish to me. So I'm just getting that. Is that kind of like the way it's set up?
Kind of. I mean, it's, you create threads through the comments where, you're able, like, you basically respond to the actual prompt, and then it creates a longer thread of where the fill goes, or people replying to the fill. And then Ash mentioned Pinboard, which we also use Pinboard, which is an opportunity where you can post links to things, and then you could put descriptions, you could tag it. And so we have a very thorough like tagging system that us mods, we read through everything to make sure it's safe, to make sure there's like no judgment, no bullying, that kind of thing. And then we put it onto the Pinboard, where also that allows the readers to go back over to the pin board, and you can maybe like filter out certain things that you're interested in, or take out squicks that you may have, and or specific pairings you want to read. So then we're able to put them all on the pin board where it's easy for folks to find the fills.
Okay. Sorry, Karlee.
Cool.
I
No, I was just gonna say that I had when you said that we were going to be chatting, I went and had a look at the sort of like the fills and stuff, and it eludes me in the same way that LiveJournal and Tumblr elude me, because I'm a pampered AO3 baby and I like my things to be. I like everything to be how it should be on AO3. I don't. These kind of like blog boards confuse me, but it looked really cool, and it did, like, I like what you've done with the place. I like it.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons that was really hard when you got into fandom way back in the day when LiveJournal was the main place where people hung out, it's learning how to navigate it, because it's it was the place that was both archive and community place, so it was being AO3, Tumblr, and Twitter all at the same time. But not well searchable. So it takes some time, but I think now the way the Masquerade is set up is pretty easy, because you have this one post you go to, and then you can read through all of it, and if that's too much, you just go to the pin board and click on the fill you want to read, and it takes you there.
Yeah.
Okay. That leads into my next question, which you did answer, in terms of like an anonymity, and the fact that as mods, you do check the submissions and are actively moderating it. It's not just, just willy-nilly, just prompting without like going through like and just being looked at, checked for just anything, like certain things in particular.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say that over time, there's been things where once in a while, like, someone gets a little huffy in comments and kind of, starts to create drama or something like that. And so we've had to kind of shut that down. But that's very few and far between. But in general, it's also just to make sure we have a few small rules that we do hold hard and fast to. Like, for instance, do not mention the actor's real children, anyone underage, that we don't want that brought into the picture. And so, part of it is making sure that they're adhering to the rules, or, just that there's not any problems that start to brew up. But in recent years, it's been absolutely no problems, maybe very minor things that we discuss in the background as mods about like, how do we handle this one thing, but it's nowhere near, what it could be or what it used to be way back in the day when you had a little bit more spiciness going on between people. But so we read all comments, we read every prompt, fill,
Wow.
I think it's funny is that at least what helps is having the three of us is, and that's also why we kind of have to schedule it out of when are the three of us going to be available. It helps that Ash is in Europe, because she can catch kind of the overnight shift when it's day for her, but I'm sleeping. And but also we've had it even recently. It was like one of us was said, oh, can someone else read that one and tag it? Like it's a squick for me, so we can kind of share that to say, yeah, that's fine. We can pick up different ones.
Yeah, that's. I will say from experience, it's always pretty good to have someone that in different time zones, so you could go, okay, I can do this while you're sleeping, and you can do this while I'm sleeping. I was just thinking while you were saying, you would think something like, please don't include the actors' real life actual children, would not be something that you would have to say out loud. But here we are.
Yeah.
I think that should be common sense, but
I think maybe over time it's become way more common sense, but that rule was born out of maybe early on when the actors first, especially like Jared and Jensen, first started having children. And no judgment is, there's kinks about underage stuff. And so I think that it started to get a little too close to the lines at times. The rule basically came from like the pre-mods, like before we took it over, the mods before us had that as a rule. So I don't know that anything really happened, or if they were just being proactive. But we do keep that in place still. And so it's part of our overall rules of absolutely do not do this. So
yeah, I spoke. Go ahead, Sandra.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to lead in, because that leads kind of perfectly into the next sort of thing that we had, which was like, I know you guys kind of inherited this from someone else. But did you at any point think of putting any kind of restrictions on what kind of kinks could be explored? Like for example, extreme underage things or bestiality, to name a few of my personal squicks, not kink shaming at all. Just, was that ever something you considered, or did you always want it to be like this kind of open, free, completely go off as long as you adhere to like these real life people rules, you can do what you want kind of thing?
Yeah, it was always supposed to be a place for everyone. And we know that this is not something that everyone is into. And we know that there are people who don't participate because we know they can see anything and everything in the prompt lines, and not everybody is comfortable just scrolling past things they don't want to see that squick them or that could potentially trigger them. But the Masquerade is, I think, the last and only place in fandom where really anything goes all together. And I think especially as time has moved on and fandom has become a little bit more fractured. And I mean, obviously there are always like different groups in fandom and different factions, but it feels like a little bit more fracturing and splintering within fandom has appeared. And so we really want one place to be there for everyone as long as people still want that. And as for restricting certain kinks, and if you start restricting 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 kings, it's always arbitrary what you choose, right? Because a group of people who organize something has to get together and decide, these are the kings that we find acceptable for whatever reason, and these are the kings that we don't find acceptable. And so we as mods of the Masquerade would have to come up with a system of what to exclude and then why. And it's not in the spirit of the challenge at all. And I don't think it would be helpful in any way, because even if we say, okay, we're going to include this and this and that to make other people maybe more comfortable with a challenge and then be able to participate, but there will always be a group of saying, well, but what about these kinks? This triggers me and this triggers me and this pairing. And we actually had a discussion this week, this time around, when someone mentioned to us, could you please have separate posts for pairings? Because I don't want to see certain pairings. Like, for example, because on the kink meme, they have at least a separation between like RPF and Supernatural. And we were like, no, first of all, we don't want that. And second of all, it's just not feasible, because then we would have to open 50 posts for 50 different pairings. But every time someone comes up with a new pairing, and then you would have to be like, okay, we're going to do a post Wincest and a post Destiel and then a post J2 and then a post J3. And it goes on and on and on. But in the end, you would still have to have like one post that's miscellaneous for like all the other pairings. And one thing that we really like about the Masquerade is that it gives a lot of time and space to rare pairs that otherwise just don't get a lot of love, right? Like we had a Sam Jody fill this round, which is
Karlee loves that.
Well, there we go.
That's one of my only like canonical ships. Sam and Jody, Bean and Donna, and Sam and Rowena are like my only canonical ships. So yay.
Yeah, there you go. We have a Sam Jody fill. And this is something that we really want to uphold. And if you start separating out in different posts, for example, I think last Masquerade, I wrote a Sam Rowena fill, which is something I would usually never do. And I wasn't looking for, but I was scrolling through all the prompts and I saw this prompt and was like, oh, this is actually interesting, right? This is intriguing me. And so if you keep everything together in place, you have the opportunity to stumble across new things where you're like, oh, maybe I do want to try that out. And oh, maybe I do like that. But I think generally it's just in the spirit of the kink, right? We want, this is the free for all, no judgment. Everybody is welcome for everything. And as long as people like that and want to participate, we will keep that going.
Yeah. At some point too. Oh, sorry, Karlee.
No, I was just gonna say I totally get that, because I know when we were putting these questions together, I remember talking to Sandra and being like, oh, I don't think I could, like putting myself in your shoes, I don't think I can moderate a space where you could like encounter something that like I feel really strongly about, like extreme underage, not just like normal underage, but like, extreme underage. I don't think I would be able to be in a place where I could see that. But then sort of listening to your perspective, where do you draw the line then? If you start excluding this, then, oh, well, how far down the line does that go? And then you're every other fandom place, where you can only be here if you exist within these, this box. So I really love the idea that you stuck to that and been like, this is completely judgment free. You come here and it's a free for all. Basically, you can write what you want and nobody's going to say anything. I think that's freaking awesome, personally.
I mean, I think we're also lucky in the current constellation that between the three of us, we can basically do and read anything.
Yeah.
And we haven't come across something yet where all three of us were like, no, we can't read that.
Well, the other trick is sometimes I'll just skim it until I see I pick up on what the certain parts of the sex scene are or something, because we do tag for bottoms or tops, kind of a thing, because some people have preferences, or what kind of kink act is it, and there's times we can just scan just to pick up the main things to tag. It's not like we're truly reading it, word for word, digesting the whole thing.
Is it you guys that decide what submissions get tagged what? Then it's not like AO3 where the author puts in the tags, you guys do it?
Yeah, I think sometimes people will put in at the top, they'll tag it for either extreme warnings or something, and then we know, but otherwise it's mostly us. But go ahead, Ash.
Yeah, basically what I was going to say, some people provide tags and otherwise we decide what should be a tag on the pin board. But also these days, a lot of people claim their fills afterwards and then put them on AO3, and then obviously they provide their own tags.
Yeah. Okay. Wow, that's so much. Make no wonder you skim read, because you just wouldn't have the time to sit and in depth read everything.
Yeah.
Wow.
I just was gonna say too, it's really refreshing, and I think we've gotten into this society culture where we have to give some onus and responsibility to the participants that are choosing, to come into something like the Masquerade, and it seems like from the rules and explanations that you guys are very thorough about how it works, what to expect. So I don't know, I guess to me, I just get back into this catering thing that, sometimes people fall into, well, if this one says this and this one says that, and then, where does it end? So it's really, it's just giving responsibility to the user as well. Which I think is really great. And not you're moderating to an extent, but that's to fulfill the purpose of the Masquerade. It sounds like, just in general, and being able to keep that going, which I think is really good. So yeah, no, that was one of the reasons why I was really interested in talking to the moderators, because this just seems like such a daunting thing. And now to even know the tagging process is just yeah, you guys are like AO3. You're doing all of the stuff behind the scenes, making sure the tags make sense, or wrangling tags. So do you have to wrangle tags? Because I've heard that on AO3 a bit too. Do you have do you have a tag list? Do you have how
is it a table? Is it a table? Is it a table?
Now I'm even more intrigued, because I'm where is all of this? Do you do all of this off of Google Drive and putting all of this stuff in place behind the scenes with the rules? And
I'm going to interrupt now. Don't give her any more ideas.
No. But I'm curious.
A year ago, we started off with, I think we should make a table. Okay, I don't want a table, but we'll make a table. She brings PowerPoint presentations and fucking research papers now. Don't give her any more ideas about how you manage the admin of this, because I don't need PowerPoints in my life.
As someone who was working on a PowerPoint for work at 9:00 last night, I'm very intrigued in using PowerPoints for fandom. No, I think part of Pinboard is we have an account specific to the Masquerade, and then it kind of saves what your tags are. And so, part of it is also just trying to keep those tags in line, right? Of how do we phrase them. And so once you start typing the tag, it'll start to autofill what you've used before. So that's part of it. But there are days where one of us will, DM the other, and, we have a group DM to say we have a new tag, because it's a new kink or something different, or a new pairing. And again, we're all about just celebrating the diversity of the ideas and the thoughts and the pairings and whatever else happens. And so, sometimes we have to create a new tag, but it's a pretty structured system that also came from the folks before us that, how they were tagging things, and we just continued doing it the same way.
Okay.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I will tell you how a PowerPoint got into this because I was blown away. Like I said, like a year ago, and I was like, I don't want tables. Because I'm an absolute goblin. I don't like structured things. I like bullet points. And she was like, no, we need tables. And then we were doing an episode on something I'd written that Sandra had some massive, strong. I made her hate Dean. I'd written something that made the Dean girl of the podcast be like, I fucking hate this. I hate him so much. God damn it, you better fix it. So she wanted to do an episode and just like explore what I'd done. And it's not finished, but it I was in between installments. There we go, words. And she rocks up with this whole ass PowerPoint that had like clipped comments from AO3 and thoughts and pictures. And we had to do like a video episode of the podcast because we don't there's no video for this particularly. It'll just go up on YouTube as audio with a background image. But no, this was a whole ass video podcast with like recording screens on Zooms and stuff. The file was massive when it was done. And I was like, you made a whole ass PowerPoint. I've made some notes in bullet points and you brought a whole ass PowerPoint to this. What are you going to do next? Are you going to start skywriting things?
No.
What is happening?
Yeah, no, but it required it. It really did. There was a lot of thought, and I just needed to get it all out. So it's actually kind of therapeutic to do that way. But yes, no, I don't do that on the regular. I think I don't. No,
now you bring research papers.
I bring research. Well,
see, Ash, we're gonna have to start using PowerPoint for our roundtables.
No.
We have a group of friends. I mean, there's a couple of us from the Masquerade and then a couple of other friends too that we've made, over the years. And we do like a Big Bang roundtable that like when we're working on our Big Bangs and it's getting, right after the draft submission and then it's, going forward to fix it. We do sort of like a defend your dissertation where everybody reads each other's stories. And then we've had it where we all get together. We use Zoom a lot too, where we get together on Zoom and then talk, to each other about the pluses and minuses of the story and help people brainstorm ways to, enhance the story. So yeah, we'll start using PowerPoint.
Yeah. I personally love Google Docs and comments. That's how I interact with my beta. That's how, if I'm looking at something for Sandra, she's looking at something for me. But no, PowerPoints. Yeah. And then when you're done with PowerPoints, when you're like, I think we've got all we can get out of PowerPoints. Start bringing research papers, studies, things like that. So-and-so et al. Because that was the last thing she did, and I can't keep up anymore. So, for the love of God, please don't give us a convoluted idea. Because I don't know where else she could take this.
The PowerPoint would come first. I think we use Google Docs too. And I will say, in our circle, Amy holds the title of the bad news beta. Because she's usually the one who will be like, this doesn't work. Honest truth.
I don't keep people like that around. My beta's lovely. She's like, I love what you've done with this, but you've half-assed it and I need you to fix it. But there's always a nice bit first. She always butters me up first. She's always like, this is great and I love it, but you fucked this up. You need to go fix that because it's not working.
No. Amy is more the tough love kind of type.
Okay.
I'm still nice about it. Like
you are.
I think the one time it was like, there was like 24 hours before the Big Bang had to be posted, and it was like, this is what I've done with it. And I was like, one of my comments was, yeah, it works, but this doesn't feel like your caliber of writing. It feels like if you had more time, it could be more representative of what you're capable of. So almost like a mother being like, I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. You could do better.
Sometimes you need that though, don't you? Sometimes that you've half-assed it as well, and you need someone to come along and be like, we all know that you're better than this.
Yeah.
And
I still tell them what works. I say, oh, this is great. I love this part, and so yeah.
Yeah.
I've got a tangent question related to Big Bangs. I'm attempting my first Big Bang ever. It's the Dean Winchester Big Bang. So what, just advice?
I'm stressed.
I'm scared. I've never done like a challenge like this before. So it's my first one. And I'm like, okay. And now I think I'm going to even like do a bingo. So I'm just like, I think I'm doing way too much. But do you have any advice? And I don't know if any of you are attempting the Dean Winchester Big Bang, but I know I think like summaries or like a check-in is coming up. And I'm like, okay, I've got an idea about my story. Like how prepared do I need to be by like check-in? Like, do I need to I know I have to put a summary together, like I think within a week or so after that. I'm just, any advice, please, like help, because I don't want to fail at this one. So do you have any Big Bang advice?
Well, so I mean, every Big Bang or reverse bang is different what they require for check-in. Some want a word count, some want an outline. So you really have to, and I'm not doing the Dean Winchester Big Bang. So you really just have to check in what they want for the check-in. Generally, I mean, it depends on your speed as a writer. So both Amy and I can write really fast if the situation requires it. And we have, no pun intended, we have banged out drafts in like a week with like 20K, which were then in terrible shape. Which are then in terrible shape and need to be fixed. And then sometimes you realize, oh, I can't fix this. It's just not good enough. And then you need to scrap it. And that's unfortunate. If you're a slower writer, you should definitely pay attention to the deadlines and give yourself some buffer, because, you know, real life happens, and there's always something that will keep you from writing when you think you have the time. So that would be advice number one. If you're writing a summary and it's for claiming with an artist, make sure you write an artist-friendly summary. So basically, what that means is describe your story. Don't put a cliffhanger in there, because it's not for your audience, it's for your artist, so they need to know.
Right.
And put in like descriptors of the scenes that you're writing. Like tell them this is the setting. Like there will be a scene in a funky looking motel. There will be a scene in the car at night. There will be a fight scene. So the artists know what they can work with.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So
I'm hoping that, it's apparently like it's at least has to be 5,000 words. So I'm like, okay, I'm not like giving myself like the worst first introduction to it. So I think I've got a thought in mind. I've got a story. I think it's like the scene part, because I did read like, you know, what they want to have submitted, and they did mention, you know, artist friendly. So not, you know, like just like, I guess, like you said, things that would attract an artist. You're like, oh, I'd really love to draw this, or kind of like, you know, bring my take to this story kind of situation. I'm just kind of really excited, because I am amazed by all of the fan art that I've seen, you know, over the years. And I'm just like, I just kind of want somebody to just draw something from my story, like something that you know, that's kind of like my thing. Like right now, it's like, I want to see that collaborative or expression of what I put on paper.
I feel like there's no greater joy than when like you've written a story and then you have a very talented artist like do the scene that you wanted, that you've been visualizing. And I mean, Ash and I both been there, or with our other friends, where it's like, oh my God, look at this. Like, this is what I wanted. So yeah, I mean, and I'd say too, like things, I've included things for the artist summaries, like maybe what the tone is, you know, like, oh, this is going to be like light fairy tale feeling, or this is going to be dark apocalyptic world, and it'll feature, you know, these weird mangled creatures, or it features, you know, Dean in a onesie, you know, it's just, you got to think about something different that's going to visually entice the person, you know, to want to pick it.
Yeah.
I have a fic if there are people out there that want to draw Dean in a onesie. Hit me up. I have a fic of Dean in a onesie.
I feel like we should have had that as a prompt on the Masquerade this round. But yeah, I'll save it for next year.
Yeah.
And I will say, participating in a bang is also just really nice, because sometimes you become really good friends with the artists and you get to know new people and different ways of working. And so, yeah, I can only recommend. And if people are worried about writing longer fics, so like the Big Bang requirement is usually a minimum of 20K, but there are plenty of bangs who do like the mini bang, where it's maybe like 3 or 5.
Yeah. I think that's why I saw that and I was like, oh, I think this is doable. Like, you know, I was like 5,000. Like, okay, I think I could do it.
You would have no problem hitting a 20K word count.
No,
all we have to do is give you one idea and a bit of angst, and off you fucking go.
But I think it's more about the schedule and the deadlines. Like, you know, having something imposed outside of my own brain that's kind of like, you know, giving me particular angst about it. Cause it's like, I know I could probably get to a very long story, but I don't know how long that might take me. Like, Ash was saying too, there's like real life and, when other things get in the way. So I'd rather be, prepared and have my, I guess, points in place and know what I need to hit. So yeah, no, I'm cautiously optimistic and looking forward to, but I do like the idea of expanding just the community that I'm not very, it's hard for me to get into a lot of different communities. I tend to be very introverted anyway. And so it's like, I kind of like, this is a way to meet new people in the fandom as well. So I'm kind of looking forward to that possibility. So yeah. So, okay. All good
Good luck
ideas.
with
All
that.
good thoughts.
And if you need a bad news beta, you know where to find me.
I'm just gonna, before you let this topic go, I'm just gonna point out that wash is like 22k words in a month. So maybe shush.
Yeah, but again, like they don't all work out that way, and I don't know. Like sometimes you get the inspiration and sometimes it's just like, well, I have this great idea, but then now what do I do with it? So yeah, I'm thinking too much. I'm getting in my head too much.
I want you to be confident though. I want you to be confident that you can do the thing.
I'll do the thing. I'll do the thing.
What's something to also remind yourself, we always try to remind each other of this, is that, different people write in different ways, but also sometimes like just we'll do sprints with friends where we say, okay, for the next 25 minutes, we're just going to write. And like, we're all doing it at the same time. You're not getting distracted by the internet or anything else. And you're just putting words in the document and you can fix them later. So if that's the kind of person you are, that's a good way. I mean, we have another friend who's a fantastic writer and she like micro fixates in a way on her sentence structure. But I mean, she's brilliant in how she writes. So she takes longer to write because she takes time to like write a sentence and edit it down before she moves on to the next, which is fine too. But, there's people who plot out things with outlines to make sure they're going to hit certain marks. I think Ash and I are more kind of the down and dirty where we just go, we have an idea, we're just going to start going and see where it goes.
Yeah, that's how I write. That's how I write. I have an idea or an image in my head and I'm like, yep, this.
Yeah.
It doesn't always work out the way you want it to, but it's fine.
Yeah. Since we were talking about Dean in a onesie and not including it in SPN Masquerade this time, how do you come up with like your themes? Like, and we're not gonna talk about tables anymore because we already had that discussion, but how do you come up with, the ideas like the summer sultry swing or stuff like that? Are these just like, do you guys just have meetings and go, okay, what are we gonna do you have a master list? Like, how does that come about?
No, I mean, it usually is dialed around the time of year that we choose to do it. Like we've done one in fall and I forgot what we called it. I should have been more prepared, but it was like a fall oriented, like autumn something, And this one, we did it the summer sultry swing because it's summertime. And a lot of times it's, the three of us, we sit there and we go, hey, what should we call it? And we just start coming up with things or even kind of crowdsource it from our friends group and just come up with, the 2 to 3 word phrase that's going to represent, something kind of sexy and kinky.
Yeah. Who did the artwork for the, for your, like the summer sultry swing? I thought it was so cute.
Quick Reaver, which she's one of our good friends and she's an amazing artist. She has such a deep catalog of stuff she's done. And she's so great that she loves to work with friends. And so whenever we're like, hey, do you think you could do a banner for us? She's like, of course. And so
that's amazing.
We just give her some ideas, maybe what we're thinking. And then she, adds in some of her touches. So.
No, it's great. I loved it. I loved it when I looked at it. I was like, oh, this is it just makes you want to like be on, like, I mean, you want to be on the beach with Sam and Dean anyway, but it's like, reason to be on the beach. So I know we started at the beginning, like today's the last day of what do you actually, what's the best way to call it? Is it prompt fill? Is it prompts? Is it, because it's not quite a challenge. Is it like, what would you call this in general? Like what you're doing right now, that today's the last day of it.
I think we call it like a round.
Okay.
So to speak, or I don't know, Ash, do you have a thought?
Yeah, I mean, generally I would call it like a prompt meme or a prompt fest, maybe. I think is also what we would call it. And every new iteration is a new round.
Okay. So how crazy is it today that it's the last day? Is there a lot of last minute stuff to do? Like what's happening behind the scenes right now in between you taking the time to talk to us?
Well, I mean, we're just watching the inbox a little bit more closely to see like last minute fills coming in and then tagging all of them. And we only tag fills when they're complete. So when someone just posts part one of something, we only post it when it's done. But then at the end of the masquerade, we go through all the fills that are still work in progresses. And if they're not finished, we still tag them, but then we tag them as a work in progress to the pin board so people know whether they can read a complete or in progress kind of fic.
Okay.
And that's really all. And then, so usually what we do on the last night and the last weekend really is that we open like an anonymous chat room for people to come in. And usually a few of us mods will be in there. And so if people are like, oh, I want to fill another prompt, but I don't know what, and then people throw around links to certain prompts like, oh, how about filling this one? Or this is a fun one. Or you just, like talking about rushing to the finish line, trying to post something. And then it's like, do you really, close it down at midnight? And then it's like, well, we close it when the last mod goes to bed. And then it's like, oh, when is the last mod going to bed? And then it's how long Amy stays up because she's in the last time zone. Yeah, and then it's just, closing down the post and like making the announcements on Twitter and Tumblr and being like, okay, we're done for this round. It's going to be anonymous for a week longer. You can go all look and read and leave your feedback. And then a week later, basically, is the time when people take off their masks and be like, this was me, I'm posting it today, a 3 come read, or this is me and I actually finished it, so you can read the whole thing here. And sometimes people just never come back to their fills and just leave them in the anonymity. Yeah. But I think that's it. Amy, did I forget something?
No, I think too is even though this round maybe has been a little for one, me, I've been much more busier with real life, so I haven't had a chance. But like us mods, we're also writers, and so we're usually very active on it as well. And so I know Ash and Kelly were talking even last night about wanting to do some final fills today, and so we're probably going to be on there as well, trying to furiously write and do some fills ourselves. And then usually it's like the next day or so is when we start going back to fill or to pin on the pin board what was done.
Okay. Do you do any sort of have you like compared the activity or the interest like from round to round? Like, is there one season maybe that tends to be busier than the other, has a little bit more interest, or does it just depend? Do things kind of just ebb and flow? Like, I guess since you've been doing this a while, have you, I guess my question always is too, like, and I've talked to Karlee about this, after the end of Supernatural, did you sort of notice, was there any kind of like really big change in activity on these kinds of like challenges, prompts, memes, rounds, things like that?
I think in general, the number of fills we've gotten has gone down kind of each year. And I think it's just the fact of, fandom getting smaller, people moving on to other stuff. And also, on a personal level, I mean, the 3 of us mods have seen it too, where we've had rounds where we've done a bunch of fills. And then there's some rounds where we don't have the availability to be able to do as many fills ourselves as well. So I'd say in general, it's kind of waning a bit over time, but we still get some good like diehards who come around or even in recent years, we still get some new people from Tumblr who jump over and start doing more fills. So I think in general, it's just the waning of fandom and in general, even Big Bangs and other challenges have seen that over time, the numbers kind of fall off.
Yeah, the pinboard makes it easy to track, so we can see the numbers. And it's a little sad, of course, to see like there are less people around to do this. But I think it's inevitable when there is no new content for fandom, and people move on into new fandoms and find like new shows and books to write for. But as long as people still want to do it, we'll keep going.
Good.
I think too, one kind of similar to the idea of like what are the trends is one thing I do want to bring up, is that the idea that we always see trends within the years of 1 year to the next of kind of like what's the new big thing, like what's the new kink or the new trope or the new pairing. And so we do see that on occasion where it's if something specific, like certain years it's like really high on ABO and other years it's high on BDSM. And even things like we were laughing that like because Jensen was seen at the con this weekend with like, a more pronounced
we were
mustache.
talking about this before you came on.
And it's like, well, if that had happened like a month ago, we probably would have seen a ton of prompts about the mustache. It's so it's kind of neat in that way, at least, even if it's, if numbers are maybe not as high as they used to be, it's still fun as kind of the viewers of seeing how each round kind of morphs a little bit differently of what's bigger or better. And maybe these days we don't get as much like rare pairs from Supernatural because the show's not on anymore. But then also things like when Demon Dean happened in the show, we saw a big influx of like Demon Dean and Blood Drinking Sam, like kind of bringing back the season 4 blood drinking, because that was like a really idealized, thing that people wanted to see together. So you see a lot of those kind of trends coming and going.
Gotcha. Any spatulas? Did you get any spatulas? Because I heard about Jared on Family Feud.
You still have to fill me in on this. I have to know though, and it's just between us, and we will cut it out if you want us to. What are your thoughts on the Tash? Because it was quite a spirited debate between us before you guys arrived.
Well, I personally hate mustaches, so yes. There's just nothing here for me to say except that I very personally hate mustaches.
It's a very visceral reaction for some people.
I've hated them for a long time, and I can't consciously remember ever seeing a person and being like, yes, great, except maybe Pedro Pascal. But like any other mustache iteration, I was just like, no.
No, that's
Amy. Amy, where do you land?
Amy?
Yeah, I mean it's not great. I think at least also Ash and I are on the same page about wanting Jensen to cut his hair, and
I want Dean, right? Like I want Dean back, and Karlee's like, no. It's like I love his hair long. I think he looks lovely with long hair. I just want to see Dean again. Like that's just my thing. I don't know. I just want to see Dean. That's my thing.
It's funny because I feel like over the last couple years, as he's grown it out more, that there were periods of time where we'd still be like, "Oh God, why won't he cut his hair?" And then when we look back at those photos, we're like, "Oh, my God, I'm glad," because it's so long now, and it's just, it's just, not the thing. I mean, I recently did a rewatch of Supernatural with a friend, and there'd be times where we're just like, "Oh God, he's so gorgeous!" Like we forgot what he looked like.
Oh no, I'm around people that think there's 15 different fucking Dean Winchester haircuts, aren't I?
Okay, we're not going to do that again because again, it was a season ranking. You gave me 15 seasons. I had to rank his hair
and I would have accepted you going, this was the same as 4 other seasons. What, has anyone seen any pictures of Jared from the con? Because he's getting a bit, I know that I'm among Dean people here, but he's getting a bit mountain man-esque with that beard, like he did during the COVID lockdown, and I'm not a fan personally.
We're just like the strike. They have nothing to do, so they're just trying different things out, and we're just like, I'm crossing fingers, and please cross fingers for me. I'm hoping to get to the NCcon end of September, first day of October, and I was saying to Karlee, I hope he doesn't have the mustache. I do need a little bit of Dean in there, like I mean, and I know, like, but I just need to see Dean. And I've been to a few cons since COVID and all that, but like I haven't been in a picture where it's just like, it just feels like Dean's like right there in front of me. So it's just, I'm just the stash.
Are you, since you're UK based, Ash, are you gonna, did you see Jared in Wales? Are you going to see him in Scotland in a couple of months? Are you going to Liverpool to see Jensen?
No. So it's a lot of money, and my financial situation right now is not super great. So even though obviously doing a UK con is much cheaper than doing a creation con, but
I priced it because I didn't know Jared was coming to Wales until like the week before. I was like, oh fuck. And then so I like immediately I cried at Sandra. I was like, I can't afford to. And then I started following all the UK Comic-Con pages and stuff. Yeah. So Liverpool announced Jensen, and I was like, nobody shiv me, but I wasn't willing to put that much money in just for Jensen. Okay, nobody shiv me.
Understandable.
So even though it's closer to me than Wales was, I was like, eh. And then then they announced Jared, but I saw it on the Liverpool Comic Con Facebook page. So I threw my tablet at my husband and I was like, I fucking knew they were going to leave it. And he went, Scotland? And I went, oh shit, I didn't realize that. Immediately ran to price it up. And I was like, I can't afford to go. Because if it was even Wales, I would have been able to go and come home like the same day and get home late. I have to stay. If I go to Edinburgh, I have to stay. And obviously the hotels know there's a convention going, so they go, we'll just up all the fucking prices.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm with you. But, fingers crossed for 2024. That's my goal. If they're coming back, if they're coming back to the UK, I see no reason why they won't come again next year, and I'm gonna fucking get it next year. I'm gonna get my Jared Padalecki hug.
They seem to be having a good time at the UK cons, and so I don't see a reason why they wouldn't come back. I mean, it depends on what they do.
Yeah.
My personal working theory is that now that Supernatural is off the air, they're affordable to the UK cons because they haven't been before this. They hadn't been to the UK in so long. And I was like, it must be because Jensen's not doing anything at the moment and Jared's only doing Walker. They're affordable now. We can afford to get them in the UK without having to pay, thousands and thousands and thousands like Creation does.
Yeah.
I think, and I mean, don't quote me on this, but I think the understanding for a while was that Creation had a lockdown on J2 that J2 would only go to CE cons.
I think so. I think I've heard that too.
That's partly why they're doing a lot more of these other ones outside of the creation world. Like Jared went and did the one Rhode Island and a Utah one and Salt Lake City, I think it was. And so I think that's a big part of it too, is that when the show's over, I think they were able to get out from or change their contract. Not like they're getting out from underneath it, but
yeah. And also I think Creation is scaling back and doing less cons a year, so they have more time to do other cons.
Yeah, because I don't think that like you said, the interest is there. Like I've kind of been watching the DC one, like in terms of just seats and things, because I'm like, well, I'm hoping it doesn't sell out because then I might be able to like purchase an autograph or something because I really want to get Jensen and Jared, just to sign. I don't know what yet, but something maybe podcast related or whatever. And I wasn't going to get a silver or gold this year. So I was like, okay, well, I can afford a copper. So cross fingers, they don't sell out. But then I'm like, well, if they don't sell out, they might not come back again for a while. So it's like a catch 22 situation. But I just wanted to kind of circle back to one thing and really just kind of get your opinions personally about, I know we talked about Supernatural just kind of like being done. What are your thoughts on a possible reboot, or if it comes back? Do you have any interest in seeing them come back in some shape or form, as Sam and Dean? Is that a thing for either of you? Amy, I could put you on the spot first. Would you like to see them back? Would you like to see Jensen back in the boots and the hair?
Yeah, the hair, please.
You're wrong. I'll die on this hill. You're wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I think I will say, first of all, like I loved the ending, and so I'm happy with where it ended. The thing about, wanting to see a reboot, I think would mostly wanting to see like J2 work together again and be on screen together because they have such great chemistry.
Yeah.
I'd be happy if they did something else together. I think I may be one of those folks who's like, I'm okay that like Supernatural went on for so long and let's, it's okay to do something else. But mostly because I would start to be worried of, I think some of the later seasons of SPN were not super high quality. So I would be more concerned about like, what are they going to do with a reboot? Like what is the quality going to be of the story? I would still watch it, of course. I watched the Winchesters to see what it was like. I watched Walker for a while to see what it was going to be like. So I'm still going to support them, but would love to see it, at least want to see J2 together.
Yeah.
I genuinely, I wasn't laughing at you there, Amy. I genuinely wasn't. I was laughing at the concept that you plowed through the Winchesters, but you gave the fuck up on Walker. Like pretty much everybody went, "Ooh, new Jared thing. Oh God, it's awful."
Well, Karlee, you did that too.
To be fair, the Winchesters was like 10 episodes. And I'll say I started it like a few episodes and then I gave up. But then once like if it ended and they said Dean was there, I'm like, all right, well, I only have to watch like 5-6 more episodes, and I want to figure out how did they make this make sense.
Right. Yeah.
And
that
so
was
I wasn't
everybody.
necessarily watching it out of love, to be honest. But The Walker, I watched for 2 full seasons. So numbers wise, I watched a heck of a lot more Walker before I gave up on it.
I've watched Walker more
Winchester.
than Karlee has.
Yeah.
Oh, so Karlee can't even complain. You've given up.
I gave up on it really quick. I tried so hard as well. I was like, fuck me, he's in a cowboy hat. But he had like the dick extension truck that I really hated. And the acting was weird. And I gave up. I mean, I can't believe, personally, that you weren't completely in love with the incredible special effects of the Winchesters and the complete disregard for 15 years of established law. I just can't believe that you weren't in for that. I can't believe that you weren't a huge fan of the fact they blew the entire budget for the special effects on getting that fucking Led Zeppelin song for the finale. Talk to me about the Winchesters. Talk to me about the Winchesters, ladies. I fucking love it. I hated it so much.
Ash, what are your thoughts?
It's your go now.
Let me also answer this loaded question. I think I'm in a similar boat as Amy is, that I would just love to see them together, because I think their screen chemistry is really exceptional. And as for a reboot, I mean, I would love to see Sam and Dean again. I was also fairly happy with the ending. I think it could be interesting if they do like a thing that takes place between 1519 and the finale, to have like a short run of a case, but and have like, I don't know, 6 episodes where like deal with something. But yeah, I think the quality would always be a concern, but I think Jared and Jensen are aware that the last few seasons maybe weren't as great as the first few seasons. And then they might want to have a different creative input for the brothers. It would be fun to see what other characters they would bring back, but there's always then the danger, is this just fan service? Does this make sense for the plot? I don't know.
Yeah.
And one of the things that really bothered me with Supernatural in the last few seasons, that honestly bothers me with a lot of TV shows, is that every season they think they have to do a bigger and badder villain. And it's like, no, because it just becomes ridiculous at some point, and it's not what the fans want to see, right? The fans want to hang out and spend time with their comfort characters and like with their familiar comfort things. So if they do a reboot, and if they do say, okay, this obviously takes place before Dean dies, and they're just going to do a run of like a longer case, then I would just hope that they were like, okay, we don't need to tangle with another apocalypse. We can have a really interesting, smart, longer hunt that gives us shots and babies, eating burgers, eating coffee, Dean not being a morning person, complaining about Sam's hair, all the like the fun stuff that happens. And if they could just bring that back, I think that could be great. But I think Jared has also joked that they need to do it soon, because otherwise they'll be too old.
I've said that every time this topic has come up. I'm like, yeah, they didn't quit after 15 seasons because it was getting easier to do the stunts. They really didn't. And especially as Jared has like, okay, half a knee is an exaggeration, but like he's missing a bit of it. So that's gonna hinder some things. I want to see a post heaven. I don't want like a reboot or anything. I want just like a little post heaven thing. But that's mostly because I want to put Dean in a pink frilly apron. I just think that will be funny. I just want to have him just in a little cottage in heaven, and it's it's all those cute, nice little things, and they can still be hunting, but there's no like looming apocalypse or anything. And I just want to see him cooking in a little apron.
That would make a great prompt for the Masquerade next year, because we do get art fill, so you can make specific art prompts too if you want to.
Yeah, hope you come back for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I guess like just to kind of bring it all back and to wrap up soon, I wanted to ask, if somebody's interested in giving this a try, like when is your next prompt scheduled, and like what advice would you have for maybe someone who's a little maybe like, I'm not sure, like what would be like, ways for a sweet summer child to kind of like be, okay, this is what you can expect. This is what we're doing. And Yeah. When is it? Any details you can give us about the next one?
Well, so usually in the past, we've been doing it once a year. It has been for a long time a fall thing, and we moved it up to the summer for scheduling reasons. Maybe we're going to move it back to the fall. It always depends a little bit on how our schedules look like and when the other big events in fandom happen, because we don't want to have too much overlap. So I would just recommend either following our Twitter or following our Tumblr, where we will then announce. So as soon as we know we're planning a new round, we're going to make like a post and be like, okay, a new round coming soon. And as soon as we have the dates, we'll announce the dates. And as for how to get your feet wet if you're maybe a little scared of what you'll see, I would recommend checking out the pin board and just seeing the fills that have already been filled. And on the pin board, you can sort through tags. It doesn't work exactly like the AO3 system, but basically if you go to the pin board, there will be the list of all the fills. And then on the right side, there's a list of all the tags. And then you can just click on the little plus sign and then it will give you just those tags. And then you can like browse and decide what you want to click on. And when it's actually running, you just prompt whatever you want to prompt. You just need to make sure you have a little subject headline where you put in the pairing and like the main kinks. And then you have like your little comment box. You type in what you want to see. For example, I just want to see Dean in a silly pink apron cooking in heaven. Sam can be there. Wincest possible, but no requirement, whatever. And then you just hit the post button. You don't need an account to participate, right? This is the good thing about Dreamwidth. You can just participate without an account.
That was going to be my next question.
No account needed. And you can just leave all your prompts. You don't even have to read the other ones if you're a little scared. You can just leave yours. And then if you want to come back and fill something, you have to look at the subject headlines. And if you just something you don't like, for example, the subject headline says underage or is extreme underage, just skip the description of the fill and just move on to the next. If you want to search for a certain pairing, I guess you can just word search on the site, just hit F7, I don't know, the keyword constellation, and you just type in J2 and then it will automatically highlight all the J2 fills. You can use that as well. But you have to be prepared for eventually seeing something where you will go like, ugh, but you can just immediately scroll past. And then
I've got to say, I do think that's one of my favorite things is that it's not, the onus is on the person accessing the content to be, looking away from what they don't want to see. You're not going, oh no, we'll make it really sanitary and we'll make it. You're just like, no, just filter it out. You don't have to click on anything you don't want to.
Just scroll. It's possible. There's a scroll button.
Just scroll on by. Yeah.
Have you considered making like presentations for people that exist on Twitter? Just, as like a side hustle. You could be like, here are how you don't get offended on the internet. Just fucking scroll, people. Just keep going.
I mean, I just remembered actually, and obviously there's no guarantee that this will happen next year, but for the past few rounds of the Masquerade, there's a Twitter user, Casey, and then it's a number, and I don't remember her number now, Casey729 maybe, and every year she does a spreadsheet of all the prompts. So you can basically, so you need to DM her, and then you can send you the spreadsheet of all the prompts.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then you can sort and look for prompts in the spreadsheet, which is, of course, a little bit easier to navigate than Dreamwidth itself. And I can't promise that she'll do it again next year, but she's been doing it for the past few years. So,
who voluntary admin? I'm so impressed.
I'm guessing it's one of those people who, like Sandra likes tables and presentations and wanted to organize themselves.
I think it's one of those things.
I hate them.
She clearly did it for herself, but then has offered it up to say, "Hey, I have this spreadsheet if anyone wants to see it."
Yeah.
Well, I think it's because it's work we love, right? Like, so it's like it's work, but when you enjoy doing it, I mean, Karlee made a comment yesterday because I was thanking them about, all the stuff where we were getting ready admin wise for podcasts. And I was just like, thank you. And they're like, no, this is work I love to do. Like, are you kidding me? So it's like, it's a way to use all of your resources and talents in a way that kind of feels more fulfilling than most of the day job stuff. So yeah, no, I think that's great. That's the thing I love about fandom. There's some things that I could, don't quite care for as much, but seeing that interest and willingness to just do things and share, like I think that's just great. That's just great. It's lovely. It's lovely.
I want to offer one last bit of advice to the people wanting to dip toes in is something I always try to tell folks that I'm like, you don't ever have to claim what you've written, so you don't have to feel stressed, and you can try out anything you want and then just leave it on the meme. So if someone's a writer or an artist and they see something they're interested in, but they're like scared or they're lurkers, like just do it. Break that cherry. Try what you want to try. You don't ever have to claim it because it's all anonymous. No one will know who it is, and you can like walk away. And we've had that before where we've had folks who are more lurking because maybe they join our chats and they are kind of lurking in the chats, but they're also producing something. But we're also kind of laughing like we have no idea who these people are, but like they're producing and they're posting, and then they kind of just hide back into the night. So I want to keep it open to say, like, if you're ever one who wanted to try it, or you haven't written in years, or you've never written and published anything in fandom, feel free to just take a shot at it and put it up there, and then just like I said, walk away.
Yeah.
Yes.
To take this even further, I have heard that there are people who write really filthy things on the Masquerade and then don't feel 100% comfortable putting them on their A3, so they just make a second one. So I think this is actually a really old life journal tradition where people have like a more open life journal where they're like, oh, this is me, and maybe, give them some details about their lives and post all of their stuff. And then they have like the dark Kinky journal where they post really
having like the Kinky sock account. And
I have heard from reliable sources that people still do that with AO3. So
yeah, I've considered it. I have. Someone said to me, "There was like, you could publish this under a pseudonym," and I'm like, "Yeah, that's still attached to me. I'm gonna have to make a whole other account for this."
Yeah,
I didn't. I sacked up when I put it under mine, but still,
it is no problem having a second AO3 account. I would recommend maybe having a second email address for it to keep it apart, but it's all possible.
There are many ways to fulfill whatever filthy deviant thoughts you might have. Or not deviant thoughts, they don't have to be deviant, and remain anonymous if you so choose.
Yeah. And I mean, sometimes the filthy stuff you write, it's not even like super dark. It can be just strange, right? And you're like, I have never written anything like this before. This is weird, but I want to do it. And then it's just funky and different and maybe a little bit out there, but someone's going to find joy in it.
Yeah. That's the great thing. Awesome. Yeah. I mean, I didn't know I had a ton of kinks until Dean came on.
I for sure didn't have a hand kink until Jensen came along. I was quite happy with my life, and then Jensen came along with his fucking hands, and I was like, well, I can never unknow this now.
I feel like when I first joined fandom, I didn't realize that it was like fairly vanilla in terms of how fandoms run, and it was like, oh, what is all this stuff? And then over time, you just start being like, yeah, I'll give that a shot, or I'll read that. That's fine, and you kind of start opening all these doors, and there's a lot of fun stuff out there. I mean, like even beyond the fact of us running the Masquerade and reading that, everything, there's been people who I appreciate their writing or their art, and then they go and they do something a little different, and I'll give it a shot because I'm like, I trust what they're going to tell me. And I've read some dark non-con that I'm usually not good with, but like the writing was so fabulous and how it sculpted the story that I'm like, I couldn't stop reading it. I was like, this is amazing. So like, you don't know what you're going to find.
Yeah. Karlee did that with me too. Yeah. They just, really great writing. And you trust that, you just trust them, like you said, you just trust that they're, even if they fuck something up, they're going
Yeah.
Fix it at the end. Karlee, no pressure.
No pressure. God damn it, you put together what you fucking broke.
Oh,
Trying.
That's awesome. This has been a great conversation. I want to thank you both for
thank you both.
Yes.
I wanted to ask, so if somebody wants to find you, are you on AO3 and Tumblr and all those other places? I know, Amy, you said Dug In Deep. Is that spelled the way I would think it would be spelled, or is it spelled differently?
No, it's exactly the words.
Okay.
DUGINDEEP. So yeah, I have a Twitter. I'm not as active on that Twitter. I have a couple different Twitter accounts, but I'm like not as active on that one. But that's like my public facing one where I'll post my fics. I have and then I have an AO3 account too under that name.
Okay. And Ash, oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Is your AO3 account a pseudonym of Hot Sauce? Is it Dug In Deep?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, because see, I've read a load of your stuff as well. Because I went to find you, and then I was like, oh my god! Like the last thing you posted, Rule the Ruler. I think I sent that to like about 4 different people. Like, you need this in your fucking life.
Thank you.
Awesome. That's awesome. I love it when Karlee gets like, oh my god, I read all of your stuff.
Yeah,
I love it.
But I usually know in advance that it's happening. I'm usually not shocked when the person comes into Zoom, and I'm like, oh my god, I've been following you forever. Oh my god. So yeah, I have. Turns out,
Ash has been following Karlee. You've been following Ash then too, right? Ashtray Thief. Okay,
Ashtray Thief. I've been following you for so long, and I didn't realize I was following you as well, Amy. But I am, and I've read a load of your stuff as well. I'm following again. Oh my god.
Well, and then we gotta find out what your guys' handles are so we can go look for your stuff.
Yeah,
I'm Drasna. I'm Drasna. It's basically just Sandra all jumbled up. And Karlee is Karlee Karma. Karma as it is normally spelled. Karlee. Karma.
Excellent.
Yeah. But I'm not. I'm really more Dean. I've done lots of Dean Reader, Dean original female character. Like that's kind of my jam. So, but yeah.
I do. I've done Sam Reader, Dean Reader,
everything.
Yeah, I've done Sam Reader, I've done Dean Reader, and I posted one Wincest thing, and then everything went fucking off the rails. So come down and read Demonic Junkies, and come yell at me in the comments because, oh god, I fucked it so bad, and I have to fix it. And the more people that yell at me to fix it, the more chance there is of that happening. But yeah.
Ash, we talked over you. I just want to make sure. Ashtray Thief, is that the way is that how it's spelled, how I'm expecting? Okay.
It's just a person who steals ashtrays, which is where this is from. German people will recognize this because it's literally I'm from a region in Germany where people steal ashtrays. It's a thing.
Okay.
Oh, wow. You must have felt so like not quite accepted by the UK community, but accepted adjacent because we steal lighters. Everybody steals lighters. So
nice.
You must have been like, oh, my people, it's not quite the same, but it's similar.
I mean, I feel like, I haven't witnessed it yet, and no one has stolen a lighter from me, but maybe I need to put them more out there. But yeah, I'm on AO3, I'm on Tumblr and on Twitter. My Anon Ask on Tumblr is open, so if people want to talk to me, I'm totally fine with that. Okay. And if people want to know more about where to find the rest of my writing, they can just DM me or write me a message.
Okay. Yeah, we'll definitely put all of the we'll put like your links to your stuff on AO3. We'll put the SPN Masquerade. We'll make sure all that stuff goes in there. So that when people are interested, they'll be able to. And I'm assuming if anybody has questions, you guys are pretty much readily available to ask whether or not there's a round going on or not. Absolutely. Like usually somebody's going to, that's what I figured. Yeah. Okay, great. Great.
And we do have a Tumblr for the Masquerade if anyone wants to ask anonymous questions.
Okay.
That's
where I found you. That's where I was asking. And I had questions and you were readily available to answer. And I do appreciate it because I was like, this seems interesting. And I have questions. And Karlee, can I ask them if they want to come on? And they were like, sure, let's do that. I'm like, okay.
I mean, thank you for having us, guys.
Yeah. No,
I would like thank you. Yeah, thank you for coming. And also, if either of you, both of you at the same time, want to come back as writers, not as the mods of the Masquerade, if you want to come back and chat like fic and writing with us, it's an open invitation to come back because, oh my God, I'm having such a fun moment. Please come back and talk to me.
Yeah. No, I love talking about writing. And I mean, there's times, I mentioned our friends group that we do. There's like 4 or 5 of us that almost every week we get together in Zoom. This has been happening since COVID started.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was home, had nothing better to do. And there's so many times, we get into talking about tropes and, kinks and stories. And I mean, just last night we were talking about how we were all trying to catch up on Big Bangs and which ones we were reading and what we liked about them. And so, I'm 100% on board with ever coming back and talking about stuff in general.
Awesome. I will be getting in touch then so we could schedule something. Yeah. Ash, I'm going to do the same thing to you. I'm going to hound you.
I am absolutely fine with that. Okay. Like Amy said, I love this and I love talking about the technical stuff and the cultural stuffs behind writing. And I would love to.
Okay. Awesome. I appreciate that. I'm glad you guys had a good time.
This was great.
You guys are lovely.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. You haven't listened to all of our stuff yet.
So we checked it out because we're like, oh, what is this podcast? Like, there's a lot of stuff here.
Yeah, we pretty much run the gamut. But again, like initially we really, for me, it was just more like, I wanted a place really to kind of talk about and even just like reading fan fiction and doing like some podfics and stuff because I've listened to a lot of like, I know that people do a lot of Destiel podfics and Wincest podfics, but for me, I just want to hear some, I just want to hear some Dean OFC. So I just started reading them and now it's become this thing. So yeah, we kind of run the gamut of topics. We love to interview authors. So again, if you even know any other authors that might be interested in coming on and talking to us, we'd love it.
If you need incentive to sell that, either to yourselves or your friends, if you come on, we will ask you to pick a fic that you would be happy for Sandra to read, and it will go out. She will narrate, and it will go out. And it's as good as you feel when someone makes art of your work. It's just as good to hear someone narrate it like it's a real book. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, I believe it. You have the voice for that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I never did think I did, but I'm like, hey, I could do this thing. So there we are. But okay, I'm going to let you go. You guys have got a busy day. Thank you so much. Yeah. Feel free to exit whenever you want. And we will be in touch because we're going to make sure we have you guys back. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Thank you. Okay, guys. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay. That was great.
My fucking God.
That was great. That was a good surprise for you. That was nice. I'm kind of glad it worked out that way. That we didn't know who they were until they came on. I love how I didn't see your face, but I could imagine the light bulb moment of, oh wait, this is a person that I've like been following. So that's
God.
Great.
I don't know how much time you spend in like the real person fiction side of AOV.
Not a lot. You know me, Karlee. So go ahead.
Honestly, Astro Thief is like a household name. It's like Kitten of Doomage.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
It's like, oh my God.
And that's amazing. Yeah.
I didn't recognize Dug In Deep, but then like obviously while we were chatting, I was scrolling through AO3, like I have to find out. Because then I felt bad because I like flipped shit about Ash and then I was like, well, do you know anything that Amy's written? Go find out. Mm-hmm. And I do. Mm-hmm. And it's fucking awesome. So
good.
But I know you're not as big a fan of real person fiction, are you?
Not really. I mean, I've read some, but I mean, I'm more than willing to give this stuff a try. So I'm going to start looking on AO3 and seeing what Dug In Deep and Ashtray Thief have to offer. So I will definitely I'll be reading some of their stuff. I mean, usually when you get this excited, I know I should be reading this stuff. So I'm going to give him a whirl.
Oh my God, that was fucking awesome. Yeah. Yes, definitely get on the list of the schedule to get them back.
Yeah, I've got them.
Just as writers.
Down. Yeah, we're gonna do that. We're definitely gonna do that. Even if they want to just come back together or separate. However, so I will be back in touch with them about that. This is great. I love it when they.
Good.
I mean, I have yet to have a bad experience with any of the people that we've interviewed. So this has been awesome. So I'm glad. I'm glad that this worked out well. I guess we should wrap up because we, of course, went a little bit longer than anticipated. Do you have any final thoughts on maybe like what we learned about the Masquerade and maybe like what our initial because I think we did have a little bit like, maybe some hesitancy or wonderings that I feel, the lovely ladies have kind of, I think, alleviated too. And just the fact that there has to be responsibility too, and what people choose to participate in, I think is a big, big thing, like it can't just be, it's never going to be a one size fits all. It just can't, it just can't be that way. And if you're going to do the thing, you have to be prepared to do the thing as an adult and understand that this is how their framework is set up and how you can involve yourself, kind of a situation.
Yeah.
So
I think like I am a fan and I am a proponent of things like trigger warnings, content warnings, because I just think it's, I just think it's a way to be respectful that's so easy. But then something like this, I feel like the content warning is inherent before you even enter the space. And once you get in there, then the onus is on you. And I like that, because so as much as I am a fan of, warning people, because good God, we've all got trauma nowadays. Fucking hell.
Yeah.
Remember when we used to be happy? Remember when we weren't triggered by everything? But I still think there needs to be a level of personal responsibility in all of that. So I can ask somebody to say, even something really dumb, like, I'm not afraid of spiders, but if I was, if you're going to post like, spider pictures, just throw up a thing that just says spiders, know?
Yeah.
And then from that point, the onus is on me not to look at that. I don't feel like I get to go, oh, a spider warning, look at it, and then go, I'm offended, you've upset me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that they're keeping to the spirit of this is there's a level of personal responsibility in being in this space, which I do love.
And they're still being responsible in moderating and doing the pin board thing. Yeah. Like, it's like it's a give and take, and they're really like just showing their love of, I just think, creativity and individuality, and I think that's awesome. That's an awesome thing to be doing, and quite the challenge. So
oh yeah, if you've got even if you're just skim reading, and you've got to go through every every comment, every prompt, every submission, that is a lot. And I know when me and you were sort of setting up and questioning for this, and me and you had a conversation where I was like, oh, I don't know how I feel about, that kind of free for all space. But then hearing them talk about it, it makes so much logical sense, which is just like, if you start restricting things based on your personal views, there's no end point to that. It goes right down the line until you're in just another sanitized space,
or even just like the big bangs or the other challenges. Like, they're very specific. Like, I mean, like again, like the Dean Winchester one that I'm getting ready to do, it's, it's got like, well, you can write, but it's got to be, you can write about this. Like, these are the things you can write about. Like, so there's, in terms of like pairings and characters and different things like that. So, this really kind of just gives people the what ifs, and, I've always thought about, or this is a thing, that I want to, I'd love to see people's take on it, or how they look at that one sentence or two sentences and run with it. So it's, I'm looking forward to the next time that it opens up. I think I'll be able to, like, at least give it a perusal, and stuff. I think the gods just weren't in my favor, this summer. And when I found out about it, I think it was already getting ready to be underway. And again, like, being that it was very short and only like about a month or so, there was just no way. I think this go round that I would even have had time, like, just to skim through. Like, I remember like looking a little bit, like, just to see, okay, what is this about? But not really like, looking in great detail. So I'm interested in all of the different ways to sort and stuff now. I think that's definitely something that I want to look into. And I could always go back and look at what's already there for this one, and, see what people have come up with and stuff like that. So all good things. All good things.
It is.
All good kinky things. Yes.
We love good kinky things. I've got to say, I'm looking forward to, because I was just kind of like scrolling through and perusing. And there's quite a few prompts this time around that I'm like, want to read that though. I want to see what's going on with that. So Yeah, and y'all will see me next year. You'll probably know it's me. I'll be like, can I have Dean in a pig's frilly apron, please? I literally, like, any pairing you want, I just want domestic, homemade Dean in heaven. That is my ideal reboot. But yeah, we should probably wrap this up.
Yeah. So if you want to reach out to us and tell us your thoughts about this episode, you can email us at idlingintheimpala@gmail.com or reach out to us on Twitter at idlingintheletterd_impala. If you'd like to make your voice a male, check the description for a link to send us a voice message. You can find links to our personal socials and our AO3 accounts in the description. And there's also a link to my author website and my original fiction.
We also have a website now, so go check out idlingintheimpala.com. That is where all our merchandise is, and there's YouTube stuff on there, Spotify stuff on there, behind the scenes things on there. I will get around to putting a picture of the podcast mascot. Leave it with me, guys. I'm really fucking busy. Sorry. Also, obviously, in the description will be links to Amy and Ash's Twitters and AO3s and the Masquerade Tumblr and all that good stuff. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, leave us a comment wherever you access your podcast. You can leave comments on Spotify now. There'll be like a little question and answer, like, what did you think of this episode thingy, that you can leave a comment there. But especially if you are watching or listening on YouTube, likes and comments help us massively with the YouTube algorithm. All hail its benevolence. We're closing in on like 60 subscribers on YouTube, which is fucking cool. So if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Leave a comment and a like and all that good stuff. Also in the description, we have so many things in the description. We should probably we'll probably revamp this description at some point, just so if you go back and listen to old episodes, you'd be like, none of this shit is in there anymore, But let's keep you on your toes, guys. But in the description currently, there are the current causes that we are championing. If you need to access any of the services that those charities and things like that provide, all the links are in the description. And if you're able to, you want to give a donation to any of those charities so they can help, so you can help them keep helping people. I can't speak anymore. Sorry, guys. That would be freaking sweet, but no pressure. And with that, we will say thank you for joining us in the backseat, and we will see you next time, guys. Bye.
Bye.